104.7 The Cave. KKLH, Marshfield, Springfield. A proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Now, it's time for Ned Talk.
Welcome to your Church of the Kansas City Chiefs. I am Joe Westen, and let me introduce to you the pastor of the pigskin, the father of... I had something, but I can't remember what it is now. The Reverend of the Reverse, Ned Reynolds.
Oh, good. What school are you going to anyway?
I don't know.
Is this?
I don't know. I just thought I'd do something different to start the show today.
Have you been imbibing or anything like that?
No.
Well, since I am the pastor of the pigskin, may we all pray.
Yes.
Father of the football. That's what it was. Yeah.
My daughter's not going to like that.
Oh, boy.
It is Ned Talk. We are your pre-game show, your local live Chiefs pre-game show. I'm Joe Westen. That's Ned Reynolds. John Olliver back with us this week. John, glad to see you back in the studio.
I appreciate it. If Ned's the father of football, does that make me an altar boy? Because if so, I need an adult.
Yeah, exactly. Keep your hands to yourself over there, Mr. Reynolds. And Jake Gullett's back with us again for another week. Jake, how are you? We need to check that connection on Jake's microphone there real quick because it is not working too well at the moment. So we'll check that and get that right away. Be sure that that's checked out. So we're going to...
How about now?
Let's do now. Check.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
I'm going to have to crank you all the way up there. Something wrong with that mic. Oh, we need to get that fixed. We need to get that checked
I had
out.
an issue last week with this mic.
Well, Mike had that mic last week, yeah. We always seem to have issues with that mic. Anyway, let's not talk about technical difficulties. Let's talk Chiefs football. Did you guys watch the game last week?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, with the system I have, I cannot see the games when they're on the alternate channel that KOLR has. But I could see it last week because it was ESPN. Must admit to you, bored to tears. I didn't think there was anything that was really exciting about the game. The Chiefs were methodical. They were better, a better team than Arizona, played better. I thought Kyler Murray, in his pregame comments, really summed it up best. Come on, it's an exhibition game. I'm not going to go out there and play real hard. And I mean, this is the QB saying something like this. That gives you an idea of how much, I think, really motivation and incentive these guys have for preseason games. Now, tonight's a little bit different. I think it's a little bit different because this is the final preseason game, and there's a 16-day gap between this and the opener. 16 days is an awful lot. So do you want to go into that little hiatus on a stale note, not having played, or do you want to get your guys out there and maybe risk injury? Of course, every game's a risk regardless. I don't know. I don't know what we plan on seeing tonight.
What's Andy Reid said?
He has said that most of his starters he is expecting will play much of the first half. Mm-hmm. I tend to view that with a lot of skepticism. I can see the offensive line playing quite a bit, but as far as most of the starters, well, heck, you have a bunch of them injured already, and Tyreek Hill has a hamstring, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire has an ankle. Mahomes is all right, so he'll probably play a couple of series. But
that's all you need, right?
You better have some receivers out there.
Do something.
I'll tell you who hasn't played very much at all.
They'll bring 3 guys down out of the stands. He'll complete some passes.
Yeah, let's give it a try. It's a warm night, but we can go out there and at least run up once up and down the field, and that'll be it. Travis Kelce hadn't played very much at all.
No.
I'm a little surprised at that.
That mustache is keeping him down. Andy Reid's full of it. Let's start there. He said last week, first half, going to play the starters. By the time I checked in the game, which was about midway through the second quarter, they were out already.
Mahomes was out in the first period.
Mm. Yeah. So he's playing it safe. He's playing it close to the vest. Do you see this being different than what we've seen in the past? We've talked about this several times because of the 4 preseason games. Now there's 3. This used to be the throwaway game, but you still got a major cut down ahead of you.
Mm-hmm. Next Tuesday.
Yeah. Yes. So do you see this being different?
I absolutely do. I think the pressure's on for those players that are battling for a depth position. We talked a little bit off the air about Shane Buechele, the quarterback from Southern Methodist. He's looking really good. He's trying to vie to make this team. some positives you can take away from it. Juan Thornhill seems to be playing excellent, so we definitely need him in the secondary this year. Byron Pringles, he's always had the talent. He looks great. So, again, it's still the preseason, so you can't make too many determinations. But in a 3-game preseason, guys are trying everything they can to make an impression. You wouldn't think one game would make that much of a difference, but it absolutely does when you're talking about depth on this squad.
Jake?
I totally agree. These guys have to make it quicker than they normally would have. There would be another week, honestly, to make that happen. But, I was impressed with McCole last week. We were giving him a hard time by week 1. And so he made some really good catches. Because I know he feels the heat with Pringle being the guy that's really so.
I'm going to tell you the guy who impresses me, and this may be more of a homer than anything else, is Darius Fountain.
Oh, yes.
He is he's a rookie. He wasn't drafted, anything like that. And he is a Mo Valley guy.
That's right.
Northern Iowa. And I'd love to see him do something with this team. And he does have a lot of skills. He's still with them. Let's see what happens. And incidentally, guys, I had the pleasure of visiting with Bobby Petrino last week. And he coached the Atlanta Falcons. He was their head coach and had been a coach with the Jacksonville Jaguars interspersed with his college. And I said, hey, Coach, back in your pro days, does this really make a big difference going from 4 to 3 in the preseason games? And he says, well, I can't speak for the others, but with us, no. You already know who your starting nucleus and the basic makeup of your squad is going to be. If that's the case, then, well, let's see. We have 80 players and you're cutting down to 53. We have a bunch of guys there who are going all out to try to make it. Some of them are going to be disappointed and ready to go.
That's right.
Let's start with the first, or let's go back to the first cut down was this week. Any surprises there? I know Taco Charlton was probably one of the bigger surprises.
That's the second cut down.
Oh, second cut down. Sorry. So anybody surprise you out of that group?
Yeah, Charlton.
Yeah.
I kind of thought, he's a Michigan guy.
Yep.
Had a great career with the Wolverines. He's a good guy. Heck, he's a Dallas Cowboys #1 draft pick. And he just simply hasn't been able, and I think injuries probably have something to do with this, but hasn't able to really gain his niche. And like Spagnola, I think it was, who said, and maybe Andy Reid too, that here's a guy, we're going to let him go because he doesn't really fit into our context of things, but he will play for somebody.
What'd you think about the cut of the fourth quarterback, the guy that was vying with Shane Buechele? I think his name was Morgan.
Anthony Gordon is who
Gordon,
that was.
okay.
It didn't surprise me because Buechele, I think, well, for one thing, he's been given the nod. As John pointed out, he comes over from Southern Methodist, but he started his career at Texas, and he was the Longhorns' starting quarterback for a couple of years, and then they had some kind of controversy down there, and he transferred over to SMU and continued there. Shane Buechele has a lot of capabilities. He's an athlete's son. He has the athletic skill to make. He can be a big help. Not going to replace Mahomes, but certainly Chad Henne isn't either. But having those guys just in case something happens is a luxury I think the Chiefs probably would be willing to take.
Do they keep 3?
That's the question. Do they keep 3?
Do you think so, John?
I think they do. I really think Buechele's going to force their hand in that, and I think they're smart enough to know that there's enough upside there that you're not going to throw him into a game situation this quickly, obviously, but it's nice to have that depth, and it's nice to have a young kid like that has what I think is a bright future.
I agree. Even though Chad Henne looks awesome. I mean, I'll tell you, that guy is, we have a great backup quarterback.
He's ageless.
Yeah. But, you never know. I mean, COVID's still around. Look at Ryan Tannehill this week, got the COVIDs. So, you got to have to me, you need that third person, especially behind Pat Mahomes, because we have a studded team. And I do think that Chad Henne can do it, and I think that Buechele can handle the stress too. I mean, Matt Moore did it a couple years ago. So, yeah, why not?
Do you know what kind of an envious position there is in pro football? It's to be the backup to a star quarterback. You have Chase Daniel, who's been around for 12 years now, carrying the clipboard. Here you have Chad Henne, who's been around hey, this is great. You're getting paid full? What a what a gig, man.
You're listening to Ned Talk. I'm 104.7 The Cave, your local pre-game show. We're about 49 minutes away from the start of the pregame show with Art Haynes, Dan Israel, Mitch Holtis, and then the kickoff for the game is right around 7 o'clock tonight. Chiefs and the Minnesota Vikings, and it is from Arrowhead. It is the first game at Arrowhead this year, and then we take a 2-week break, and then they play the Cleveland Browns. Has any other team in the league surprised you, or have you seen anything at all? I mean, or is this just all garbage?
I can't call it garbage because it's a trying time for rookie players, but in regards to compelling action, zero. I haven't seen anything. Dallas Cowboys go out and they look ridiculously bad, and they aren't all that bad. My ball club, I tuned them in one night. They're playing the Patriots, and I turned it on. It's 32-0 New England. It didn't stay on very long. Let me tell you.
Right.
So, no, really, there hasn't been anything that's been eye-opening to me.
Have you watched much football, John, other than Chiefs?
I've watched here and there. One thing that's got me interested, you talk about the Patriots, Mac Jones is pushing hard at that starter position. So I'm going to be interested to see what Bill Belichick does between Cam Newton and Jones. I think Jones may be pro-ready. And I'll emphasize that a few weeks ago I brought it up. Look out for the Bengals. I think Joe Burrow's back. We don't face them until the last week, I believe. And that's a trap game if I've ever seen one.
Look out for the Bengals. I'm going to have that tattooed on my thigh.
Can I do it? Let me do it to you.
All right. Yeah. There we go. All right.
What I've been noticing, Trey Lance in San Francisco, Zach Wilson at the Jets. Now, we all know the Jets, Jets are terrible.
Yeah.
But, man, I'll tell you, this kid looks good. You know, and so I'm looking forward to that. And like you said, that Matt Jones, that I love a good competition, especially with Cam Newton. That guy's trash in my book. So.
Look what Mac Jones comes from. Look at
Oh,
this.
my gosh.
It's Alabama. You watch what he does. He has a altogether pro concept and attitude. I watched some of his passes. Hey, he's throwing lasers. These are not little balloons that he threw maybe on the sidelines in Alabama. He knows what he's doing out there. I think he makes a hard push. There's an interesting deal last week, though, and I found this to be absolutely fascinating. Here, the Patriots send Sony Michel, who is their top running back, or was. That's just it. Was their top running back, and they send him to Los Angeles for the Rams, this is, for a couple of draft choices. That puzzled the daylights out of me. This is Bill Belichick, who is dealing his former number one draft choice from Georgia, an All-America. He's only been in the league for 3 years, and that's just it. This is the start of his fourth year. When is it that running backs start to go down? Fourth year. I wonder if he doesn't see something that maybe is a giveaway.
Yes, I would agree.
But that
completely.
means the Rams are looking pretty stacked right now. Matthew Stafford.
Not in running back.
Cam Akers blew his Achilles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this...
he was maybe a top 5 in fantasy anyway this year.
But Sony Michel's there, and he's a decent running back now, right?
Yeah, but
He
he's
has
going to
been
be
in the
number
past.
2.
Yeah.
He'll be the backup running back.
But still, you're looking at a pretty stacked team with Matthew Stafford there, and what do you think?
Well, that's why I'm curious as to why the Patriots made that deal. Of course, they didn't trade it within their league either. But by the same token, you don't trade your star running back and a guy who anchors that particular position on your team unless you have some doubts. And I have to think that, hey, nobody likes Bill Belichick. He's kind of a dour, not a very friendly, kind
homeless-looking guy. Yeah.
But all he has done is win.
Right. In my book, when you say a stud running back, I think of Emmitt Smith, I think of Herschel Walker, those guys. But in the Patriots, they have 4 or 5 guys they use all the time. Right? So to me, I mean, we'll see. And Belichick is a genius, a boy wonder. Yes, he looks homeless, but at the same time, you're right. I think he knows something, he sees something, and the way that they go through their guys, he's got 4 more that he can use.
Surprised about Jameis Winston. He looks like he's getting a rebirth here in New Orleans. Week 1 starter, already named.
He did win the starting position.
He did.
And you can't deny that. Hey, the coach is a former quarterback. He knows what to look for. It's Winston's been around. He knows what to do. He has a pretty good idea of a winning football team. I think it's probably a pretty good move.
Do you think they're going to miss a beat this year, or do you think they're just going to roll forward?
I think they will definitely miss a beat, but I like how they're set up with Winston. People forget he's been a very more than serviceable quarterback during his NFL career. The year that he led in interceptions, that's when people kind of gave up on him. But other than the interceptions, his stats that year weren't bad. He's got a strong arm, and he's matured. That's what people have to realize. He came in direct from college and started playing. He's learned now under Drew Brees, under other quarterbacks. This guy has a different mindset this year. I think they could really do well with him.
What's the most interesting quarterback story for you going into this season? I mean, the Chiefs, it's Patrick Mahomes. We know that. But outside of our Chiefs bubble, what's going on that really gets you excited about football, the stories, Ned?
Well, it's not an exciting story, but the team that the Chiefs are playing tonight, Minnesota Vikings. Does Kirk Cousins get it? Does Jake Browning? Browning had a great career at Washington. He's a fine quarterback. And then they have others. Well, the Mond kid from Texas A&M who is battling for that position. I think we'll see or hear. We'll hear a lot of that action tonight. We're on the radio this evening. But I think there's going to be a lot of that backup quarterback action. Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts, who has been ill. But he should be back. Roethlisberger, how much does he have remaining in the tank? There's just a lot of interesting circumstances that still haven't been answered yet.
That sounded kind of dirty. Backup quarterback action. It just did. Sounds like something you read in the Urban Dictionary.
I rented that movie back in the day.
What do you think, John? What's interesting to you?
A couple of interesting things. Dwayne Haskins as the backup possibly to Roethlisberger interests me because he's got talent. He's floundered at times, but had a stellar record at Ohio State. I think he is talented, so I think there is a chance there that he could turn things around as Roethlisberger's backup. Other than that, as far as quarterbacks go, this probably won't be a popular opinion, but I really want to keep an eye on Justin Herbert this year. I want to see if it was real, and I want to see if he's matured and if he grows from last year. I've seen a lot of young quarterbacks come through. Jamarcus Russell comes to mind that did pretty well in their first few games, did pretty well in that first season, and then we all know what happened with Jamarcus Russell.
Fat load.
Yes. So I'm not saying Justin Herbert's going to give up on his conditioning. I do think he has talent, but it can go one of two ways. You have a great rookie season, you might not be as hungry. You don't work as hard. So
Jamarcus Russell was hungry.
Well,
that's just it. He was too hungry.
He was very hungry. Jake, what about you?
I am with you on that, especially since he's in our division with the Chiefs, being at the Chargers. Honestly, Sam Darnold comes to mind to see what he's going to do with the Panthers. You know, again, he was with the Jets, and he showed signs of decency as a quarterback in the NFL. And then Dak, coming off his injury, he got his money, 4 years, $160, but he's been injured this whole preseason. So what? I don't get it. And I love to see Dallas fall flat on their face. So did they pay him too much? Did they pay him before he could prove that he's not going to, is he going to do the job? Or is he going to be the typical Cowboys where everybody's going to go 8-8 and it's going to be a coin toss at the end of the year?
Mm-hmm.
You're listening to Ned Talk, your local live Chiefs pregame show right here on 104.7 The Cave.
Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave, a proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
About 25 minutes away from the start of the pregame show, the official pregame show, or the unofficial pregame show. I'm Joe Westen, Ned Reynolds, the namesake of the show, sitting next to me, John Olliver, Jake Gullett. Let's continue our discussion about NFL quarterbacks. Two of the guys neither anybody mentioned in the room, Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence. Your thoughts?
In the case of Justin Fields, I think the Chicago Bears are going to have to use him. He is the people's choice in Chicago. They've had a dismal career in picking. Jim McMahon is about the last one who really ever succeeded there. Now you have Justin Fields there, who is an exciting young player. I think he can get things done. When the fans speak, when the fans Soldier Field, that's a loud and tough crowd. You've got to please them. I look for him to be in there. And Lawrence is already going to be the starter now for Jacksonville. That's hardly a surprise. They're shelling out how many billions of dollars for that guy. So you're going to put him in there. What kind of an offensive line does he have? What kind of mobility is he going to have? How's he going to respond? He's seen the rush in preseason games. That ain't the same as the regular season. I think it'll be tough for him.
I think it will be too. And the Chicago front office trying to sell Andy Dalton to the fan base, that's not going to end well.
Let's just start with his hair color.
Right.
Now let's not do that. All right.
It's Chicago. I'm talking about the Chicago. You got those are some crazy hardcore. That's like Philly. Like those fans would never.
They are tough. They are tough in Chicago. Hey, it's been over 50, 55 years since I was stationed up there in the Navy. But going to the events there at Wrigley Field and watching the Chicago Blackhawks when there were only 6 teams in the National Hockey League, hey, those fans are really rabid.
Yes, they are.
What about Trevor Lawrence? Do you think the first lesson he learned in the just preseason NFL games that he's had is I need somebody to block for me?
I don't think there's any question about it. When these QBs get in there, he had a good line at Clemson.
Yeah.
They protected him. Did a great job there, obviously an All-America, but it isn't the same. He's going in with the best of the best, where the game, to quote every single individual who has ever been in the National Football League who I have talked to, and it's many, say, boy, the game is a lot faster when you come out of college and into the NFL. And that's Lawrence is learning that too. And now he'll really see speed at the top level when you're starting for them.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about some of the old guys or the old guard, the guys that have kind of found middle ground in their career, and now it's sort of make or break time for them. Carson Wentz being one of the guys. What do you see him doing in Indianapolis?
Well, if he can overcome the injuries, I see him doing very well. You remember when he went in with Philadelphia in his first year, he is the one who took them the major level of their existence into the Super Bowl, and they didn't finish because he was injured, but he was the one who piloted that attack. He's capable. We saw Wentz down here with North Dakota State. He can play the game. He is, and he's a sharp guy, but just injury prone, and that has to be a problem.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, John?
I think there's a couple of guys. Jared Goff's interesting to me. And at the Lions' helm, I mean, the guy, I think people forget how good he was with the Rams. I mean, they never got over the hump, but he took them to a Super Bowl.
And in college, he was a stud QB in California.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's one that kind of goes. And then how about Teddy Bridgewater? I've counted that guy out more times than I can think. And he just got named the starter. I mean, coming back.
Who's he playing with now?
Denver.
Yeah, Denver starter. He beat out Missouri graduate Drew Lock.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the horrific injury where they almost had to take his leg, and to come back at the level he's played for the Saints and the Vikings and now the Broncos, I mean, I can't put anything past that kid at this point.
John, he's another one, I think, who's benefited from what you talked about earlier, the maturity and being around and gaining that experience. When you're around and play the game and you know what to expect, well, that's the same in any profession, but certainly in football where it's you better react pretty doggone quickly. I think it has benefited him. Wouldn't you agree with that, Jake?
I do, and it is the Broncos. They have a really, really good defense this year.
Yes, they do.
So, I was looking at Trevor Lawrence's schedule, being the starter. He goes on the road to Houston, and he's at the Broncos, or they host the Broncos. And the Broncos are not going to be a team that they got to figure out that quarterback spot. And Teddy is, I love the guy. He does not quit. But at the end of the day, the Broncos have not solidified that quarterback spot for many, many years. Well, I mean, they had to bring in Peyton Manning to make it look decent. I think John Elway's head should be on a chopping block as the GM.
It may be.
And so, I don't know. We'll see. It looks, we're talking about Trevor. Man, Gardner Minshew really, really took a run at that spot.
Yes,
we knew Urban Meyer coming in, and with this kid coming out of Florida, or Clemson, out of Clemson. I think I'm looking forward to that little program.
Oh, absolutely.
I was hoping they would have done Hard Knocks with them and not the Cowboys. I don't understand why the Cowboys got it again.
Because they're the Cowboys.
Exactly.
They're the boys.
What's going to happen, guys, to Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, I was about to ask you that. What do you see here? They've got 4 quarterbacks right now still on the roster.
I honestly think he's played his last game with the Texans. So at some point, I think he'll be moved. I don't know when.
But it's going to have to be pretty soon, I would think. Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be during the season. I think he'll start. I don't think they'll have him active. And I think you go from there. That bridge has been not only burnt, but blown up.
It's such a dicey situation, and it really hasn't come to fruition. That's just it. It's been ongoing and dragging, and the media, of course, loves that because they have something to talk about all day long. But it's got to be pretty trying for him to. Can he concentrate on his game? Can he concentrate on what he needs to do for that ball club? That, I think, is the biggest challenge for him.
Agreed.
Well, he probably needs a massage to relax.
They're bad jokes.
Too soon?
Now, he's not Tiger Woods, but Tiger Woods made a bounce back. I mean, but I
He's
do
not
think,
getting any golf clubs through the back of his car.
So you think he's starting week 1? Is that true?
Who's
Watson?
Oh no, I don't think.
You don't think he plays again?
No, I don't think he plays for the Texans.
Not for
again.
Houston.
He'll play for somebody else.
He may play for somebody
I think
else.
he took his last snap for Houston last year.
Well, you know what solves everything? Winning.
That's right.
Suppose that happens. Suppose he gets a starting job. The Houston people kind of turn their other cheek, and he starts to win for that ball club. That's highly, highly unlikely, but suppose that does happen. Then what's the course of action? You think he stays with them? It's pretty dicey.
I look at, so the Kareem Hunt thing, right? So he went and tried to, he pushed a girl down, then tried to baby kick her, and he got in all kinds of trouble. And you think about everybody that's had these domestic, and this is totally different, but it's almost like they go to a different team, they sit out for a year or 10 games, like Kareem did, and then it's all of a sudden like, well.
Right.
Difference in that case is that there was video of Kareem Hunt doing his thing. There's not anything with John, to my knowledge, there is nothing with Watson. But other than he said, she said, she said, he said. And, in today's society, that is compelling enough, I guess. But there's still no... Here I am trying to be a lie.
Well,
I detest the situation. But
not to imply anything, but the timing of when the allegations arose,
I think you're implying something right now.
Were very, very oddly timed.
They were.
Considering
That's very
his
strange.
dissatisfaction with the team.
Well, and so far, I think we had to point this out. There's been a criminal investigation, but so far no charges have been laid against him. I mean, it's not to diminish what's been said.
No,
you certainly wouldn't want to do that, but there's a lot of stuff going on here. It's a lot to unpack. Let's stop and talk for a second about a guy who's had a very quiet offseason, and if there is a quarterback in the NFL that you would consider to be better than Patrick Mahomes, it's Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson, Seattle, sure.
And what do you think about Russell? What do you think about the Seahawks this year?
He is a winner. Now, whether or not he has enough background with the team, with the Seahawks, to make them a winner, that's simply conjecture. Whether or not Pete Carroll can take that team and mold a winner out of it, I don't know. They're a team that's funny because they'll win. They'll go into foreign places and win big games and all that, and then seem to stumble all the time down the stretch and kind of hurt themselves. I love Russell Wilson. I think he is a tremendous athlete, tremendous player, but you've got to have the supporting crew too, and I'm not sure he has that.
You think Wilson maybe called Mahomes in the offseason and said, hey, how did you get an offensive line?
Well, yeah, because if you watched any Seahawks games, Russell Wilson runs a lot. A lot. I think he starts moving backwards almost immediately, starts running around because he knows that offensive line is porous, would be the word I would use to describe it.
Agreed.
What's your thoughts on Russell Wilson, Jake?
Okay, so last year to me was weird because they are a second half football club. They don't ever lose after November 1st because of where they're located. But it's like last year was weird. I had him on my fantasy team, and he came out of the gate like, wow. And then all of a sudden they just fell flat on their face. And it was like, and so hopefully they don't start out where they left off. He has the weapons. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. He loves this new kid, Gerald. Gerald Everett, this tight end that he is just zoned in on. And again, another team that has a running back issue where they just are always hurt. Rashad Penny, these guys bring back Marshawn Lynch, please. Feed him some Skittles But to me, that's been the problem: is if you don't have a good running back game, and yes, he's a great scrambling quarterback, but you got to have a good run game, and that's getting back to the basics. And we talked about that before the show. Like, when are they going to start running the ball more to control the clock, to control the game, to get the guys up in the box, and then you go for something deep. And he has the deep threat.
But the running game isn't going to work unless you have a line.
True.
A line to create those holes. I saw that experimented with the Chiefs, and I thought the offensive line that they had in this particular case was doing pretty well. I don't know how tough the Arizona Cardinals are, but they were having some pretty good sized holes opened up against them. There's the key for the Chiefs too. What they can do. That's why I think this O-line that they have will play quite a bit tonight. You've got to have them working in cohesive fashion. You have Creed Humphrey, who is going to be apparently their starting center since Austin Blythe is out of there with a sports hernia operation. You've got and he's a rookie. Humphrey is a rookie from, of course, Is anybody from Oklahoma really a rookie?
No. I mean, in all seriousness, the guys that we talk about, like Mac Jones, we talk about Humphrey, the level of competition they play is on the level with pros. Most of those guys are getting drafted. So, I mean.
And drafted high.
Yes.
They can go right in there and play. Yeah, absolutely.
We're 23 minutes away from the start of the pregame show. It's Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave.
Back to Ned Talk on 104.7 The Cave. A proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
This is our pregame show, the local take on the Kansas City Chiefs, the NFL, and the sports world. I'm Joe Westen, Ned Reynolds, John Olliver, Jake Gullett with us today. Jake wanted to talk a little bit about some rule changes flying a bit under the radar this season.
Yeah,
Tell us about
kind
them.
of interesting. They got rid of overtime for preseason, which makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no reason to make those guys play any more than they have to, even though they did cut it down. I'm a devil's advocate kind of guy. Yeah, they cut it down by one game, so that extra time could give some guys some standout time to look.
It could, yeah.
One of my favorites is, so they've now allowed on a kickoff. So let's say you score a touchdown at the beginning of the game. Mm-hmm. When you kick off the ball, the team kicking the ball can line up right on the 35. But the opposing, the receiving team, can only put 8 guys up on the line, and the rest of them, which is 3 more, right? 3, my math is right.
Yep.
So, this is going to make onside kicks.
I love it.
A little bit more
That's
fun
one of the
to
more
watch.
exciting plays in the game.
How far back do those other 3 have to? Is there a measurement?
Yes, it is 10 yards.
They have to be.
It is, yeah, it's 10. It's 15 yards. My bad. It's 15 yards.
So they are 15 yards back of the 8 players who have lined up to do the blocking. Now, it's actually two guys back there because one's going to be a deep receiver. I don't think you could save. They're going to be at a great disadvantage for an onside kick, aren't they?
They are.
They are, and it's totally different. It's going to be fun. I hope that, because they kind of got rid of the fact of this whole thing where they moved it to help the players. I'm kind of happy. I'm kind of sad about it because I'm old school. I like to see them all almost kill each other, but I do like this one. They're making it more fun, which is I'm all for. Mm-hmm. So here's another one. So the replay official. So you know how there's a challenge, or maybe they look at all scoring drives. So now, before those guys put those headphones on and look at the baby television, that guy that's on the other line that's up in the booth or in New York City can already have the information ready, going, hey,
I love that.
This is a touchdown. Let's move the game forward. Or hey, this was down by contact, or this was a fumble. And have the information ready, because it takes them 15 seconds. Let's go over here and talk about what we're going to do after the game, and was this a fumble, and then so.
Jake, that's a real good point that you brought up, and I'll bet, without knowing this, I would wager that television has had something to do with this in the offseason. Boys, we're running over our network time here by about a half an hour. We've got to shorten these things. That's probably where that came from.
Yeah, and you're probably right. I mean, I think it's going to make it move a little bit faster, even 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah, it helps.
They're doing their loss of penalty if you pass the ball twice. Well, we all know you can't do that, but it used to be just a penalty, like a 10-yarder, and replay the down. Now they're saying, this is a loss of down. So
I'll tell you one that is going to be adjudicated a lot more seriously than they have been, that came to the fore the other day, and that is the taunting.
Oh, yes.
Now, I don't mean to imply anything, but there is a particular team who will be on this station tonight that does their share of taunting, and you can see it on the field. Hey, guys like Matthew and people like that, Tyreek Hill has done his share of it. There's going to be a penalty this year, and I think the second one, if a person is found to have done it twice in the game, OUT, you're out of there, ejected. This is going to force a lot of players to become a little bit more mute than they normally would be.
Yeah, and then lastly, I think they tried this preseason. It's not on this list, which means to me it didn't make the cut. But they're trying it where if you have offsetting penalties, the one that outweighs the other. So if you have a 15-yard, penalty for a personal foul, and then you have a 5-yard, something smaller, that the 5-yarder goes away, and we're going to enforce the 15-yarder. I personally would love to see them do some math on the field and say, 5 yards minus 15 is 10.
I think that would work.
Calculator out there. Let's see. It's 15 minus. All right, that's it's 7.5.
Let me get my calculator.
Well, it kind of makes sense. I mean, are you going to? Okay, so you stole the milk money from school. This guy shot someone. They offset. I mean, really? They should be the more severe.
Yeah. Wait. Are they going to do the scramble for the football like the XFL? I'd love to see that. Let's do that.
That's great. That's
be entertaining.
Where's he hate me at these days?
Why is he
playing
He's
so
hanging out
early?
with Ocho Cinco.
Ocho Cinco.
Let's talk about the schedule here for just a minute. We Ned mentioned before we started the game, today is our last preseason broadcast. Mm-hmm. We have the kickoff coming up at 7 o'clock, and then it's 2 weeks before the Chiefs play again, and they have a tough opponent right out of the gate, the Cleveland Browns.
They are. Cleveland Browns have a very nice football team.
Yes,
they will. They remember the playoffs last year, and they know fully well coming into Arrowhead that they have the capabilities of pulling off a big upset, and who knows what might happen. Now, to their disadvantage, it'll be a full house. They'll have, and notice the attendance. Incidentally, while I think about it, and I must admit to you, I do not know how to pronounce the name of the field. Is it Geha or Geha?
Geha.
Yeah.
That's it. That's how they say it.
Oh, they give the letters?
There's no actual name. It is GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. Mm-hmm. That's how they're going to present
So they're
it.
spelling it instead of naming.
Now, I'd like to see a little Geha.
So that's what it's GEHA.
That's it.
Well, when they come in here, the disadvantage will be the crowd.
Yes.
And I noticed they listed 72,000 as max. That's rubbish. There are about 78,000 they can get in there. And they are LOUD.
Yes,
that's right.
They are.
That will go against the Browns. Mm-hmm. But the Browns have played there before.
Yes.
In the playoffs. That's going to be a great opening night or opening day game.
Mm-hmm.
Who says sports talk isn't educational? We've done math and spelling since we've sat here.
And penal code.
That's pretty much, it's easy for you to say. Watch it there. So they do have a tough start to their schedule. We spent a lot of time last year talking about the season in terms of quarters. We can't do that this year because there's that extra game and it throws the quarters off. More math for you kids out there. But the first quarter of the season, I could really see them possibly coming out of that 2-2. Mm-hmm. Right? I don't think that's
teams on there.
They play, of course, Cleveland, and then they play at Baltimore, which we didn't really talk about. Lamar Jackson, still one of the class quarterbacks in the league. Mm-hmm. I think first 2 weeks of the season, you have young quarterbacks who measuring themselves against Patrick Mahomes and want to prove something, and teams that are measuring themselves against the Chiefs and they want to prove something. So those are going to be dogfights, those two games. A little bit of a break. Don't anybody say in this segment, watch out for the Chargers, because I'm just not going to listen to it anymore. No. Los Angeles Chargers. But they played the Chiefs tough last year, and then they play the Eagles.
Which Ned and I are going to fly up to, by the way. He doesn't know it, but I'm going to pack him in a little suitcase, and we're going to go to Lincoln Financial Field. What do you think?
I'll be there.
There we
go. I won't literally be there, but I would take that trip, absolutely, if I could.
We should do it.
Are you going to get on the corporate jet and go?
There you go.
Well, I'll have to talk to somebody else about that.
Who's in charge of fueling up the corporate jet?
I don't know, but, Jake and I have some have something going on there that we'll discuss off the air. We're about 10 minutes away from the start of the Chiefs pregame. You're listening to us right now on 104.7 The Cave. It's Ned Talk.
Cave. A proud member of the Kansas City Chiefs radio network.
Yes, we are. We're getting set for the final Chiefs preseason game. So they take on the Minnesota Vikings tonight from Arrowhead, or whatever you call it now, Geha. Is that what you guys were saying?
GEHA.
I don't know what you folks are talking about over here with all that stuff. But anyway, we'll have it for you. Pre-game show starts just a few minutes. First, we got to catch up on some business. It's our Player of the Week. It's brought to you by Morrison, Webster, and Carlton. Ned, we'll start with you. Who was your Player of the Week last week?
The young man about whom I talked earlier in the show, I like him. I think he's an outstanding rookie wide receiver, non-drafted Doris Fountain from Northern Iowa. He had a terrific game against the Arizona Cardinals. There was really no terrific circumstance in which there was a great player. I want to pick him because I want to see him make the team. That's my choice. What
about you, John?
I'm going to go young as well. We talked about Shane Buechele earlier. I'm going to go with him.
All right, Jake, you?
I'm going to go collectively. Last week, the offensive line looked really good, and the running game looked really good. And I know, Edwards-Helaire is out with a sprained ankle, but it's going to give guys like Darwin Thompson and Williams some chance. Speaking of Williams, I don't know if you've seen him play. Damian Williams, who left because of COVID and some family issues, is now with the Bears, and he looked really good. I was excited for him. I mean, you like to see a guy, but our running game is going to be outstanding this year. I really do think, and I think Mahomes and this offensive line that they've got, it's going to be unstoppable. In fact, I am saying 23-0. After we win tonight, we got 20 more games. Make it 24-0, win the Super Bowl in a couple
You're talking about the postseason, too.
All of them. Okay,
wow.
So
that's a bold projection.
Come on,
calm down. Get down off my little
do we have some chocolate chips we're going to put on that?
I go with Andy Reid. I think he was the Player of the Week last week because he saw what he needed to see and got the guys out of there. Minimal injury, the sprained ankle to Helaire, but
it's not high ankle, which is good.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, I give it to Andy because he knows what he wants to do. He knows what he wants to accomplish, and he saw what he needed to see, and he got the guys out of there.
You know, Joe, there's interesting about the injuries. It's Kyle Long, who's probably not going to play at all, and Duvernay Tardif with the hand injury. They're the most serious ones they've had. They did have a concussion protocol, but that's the protocol the NFL puts them through. But as far as serious debilitating injuries, it's just those two that I can think of.
All right. What is the over-under for tonight's game?
I believe it is 38. I think it's what it is. 38.
I'm going under. Let me just get that right out there.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Somebody owes me a cream, like a key lime pie from...
Oh, you what? Excuse me, sir? I don't think I owe you what you're talking about there, sir.
Mike, the intern, and I went under, and you and Ned went over. So it was way under last week.
Yeah, but I'm the oldest one here, so I get a buy out of it.
I agree.
I don't know. This has gone downhill really fast. So the over at 37?
It's 37 to 38, somewhere around
All
there.
right. So you're under. I'm under. Are you under?
I'm neither. I'm not playing the hell with it.
He's not playing.
I've lost both of them now.
Hold me to the
He
best.
just folded.
All right. What are you?
I'm over.
I'm over.
John's over. Okay. So we're under this week. We'll see. We'll do double or nothing.
Okay.
How about that?
Oh,
You
all
mean
right.
two key lime pies?
That's right.
2 key lime cream pies. That's what we're betting. Thanks, Jake, for being with us. Thanks, John, for being back with us. Ned, thank you.
Always.
Get set for Art Haynes, Mitch Holtis, Dan Israel, and some Chiefs football coming up right here on 104.7 The Cave. Kickoff 7 o'clock pregame. Well, it's just moments away, so stick around.